Shipping.
Welcome to another episode of the Triumph Dolomite Sprint Rally Car Restoration. Today I'm going to put the fuel tank back in and generally put the boot back together. Now this car is used for a lot of different sorts of motorsport, rallies, super sprints, anything that takes me fancy. So the boot configuration varies from event to event. I'll be setting the boot back up to what it was when I did the Southern Cross Rally a few years ago, and that event was a travelling event that meant everything you needed had to be carried with you. Your clothes, your laptop, computer, camera gear, tools, spare parts, everything had to be carried with you, so it meant a lot of weight. But I was setting the boot up to that configuration, so there'll be a toolbox in there and everything sort of straps down. You've got to hold it in place. And so that's what I'll be doing, so let's get on with it. Now the fuel tank is all been nicely repaired as I explained in the last episode, and it's now all painted and looking all very nice and ready to go in. Now the boot is all been painted and all set up, ready to put it all back together. Now the battery lives in here as well, and alright, let's get on with it. Alright, let's get this thing in here. There's not a lot of holes for these things in. It should be held in by 4 bolts, but one of the brackets and bolt captive nut long since broke off, so these days it's only held in by 3. First problem struck. As you would expect whenever you do anything to a car, the patches that have been, well, they're not patches, they cut a hole out of the bottom of the tank and welded more bits of steel in. But it's thicker steel and it's got weld on it and all that sort of thing. End result is it's harder against the floor of the boot. So I'm going to need to sort of pack it up, and I'll probably need to find some longer bolts and I don't know, pack it up with some washers. It's sort of going to be about, I don't know, 3 or 4 mil packed up. Bugger. Alright, what I've ended up having to do is find some washers, put a bit of electric tape around them just to keep them together. Ended up more than ½ an inch sort of like packing to keep the bottom of the fuel tank off the floor of the boot, and that's going to impact on the way this boot goes together, so it's going to be a problem all the way down the line. Found some longer bolts, hopefully they're long enough, and let's see how it goes. Because this car's got a battery in the boot, everything you do to a car makes things more difficult. Where the battery sort of sits, I've made a platform for it to sit on, and of course that makes one of the bolts hard to get to. twice the fuel tank physically bolted in. I'll now have to do the inlet pipe and the breather, and then get underneath and hook up the fuel line. A little bit of progress. I thought that'd be the easy bit. I'm now concerned about the hole in the boot where the fuel comes out. Having lifted the fuel tank that bit, maybe that won't line up anymore. Problems. I'll put the wires on that fuel sender, but this tank was actually the spare tank I had. Obviously the original tank had a rust problem as well. This one was in slight better, but still rusty. So I don't know whether that fuel sender works. It's easy to get to and easy to replace if it turns out to be a non-worker. I think we'll get under and have a look at the outlet first before I go too much further, because this oil might have to come out again. Well, I've owned this car for over 30 years, and of all my cars, this one has been the most cantankerous and difficult of all. If something won't line up, it's on this car. If something won't screw in, if some thread strips, it just does it all. Okay, so what's happened is, because the fuel tank is not all the way down where it used to be, and I've had to pack it up, that's meant that the hole where the outlet comes out wasn't really big enough, or out of line. It didn't appear to be, and you could turn it and it wouldn't go in, and I've just mucked around for it ages. Anyway, I've just sort of off camera butchered it a bit, bashed it a bit with a screwdriver, and made it just that little bit bigger, and the thread is just caught, and I just got to do it up. And like I said, this should be a dead easy job. It would have been a 5-minute video, and 3 bolts holding it in, and a hose, and another hose down here. Well, it's not. To the point where I've got a spanner on it and got it tight. Of course, the next challenge is now, because it's out of position, getting the hose on there is going to be fun. Oh, Dolly. Just loves torturing me, this Dolly. Has done ever since I've had it. Maybe that's the attraction, eh? Oh, I don't know. Alrighty, bit of hose that goes from the fuel tank to the hard fuel line. It's hard to get to, so let's give it a go and see what the hell happens. too old for all this. I think this will be the last car rebuild I do. I know the TR7 is going to need some work, but it's not a complete rebuild like this thing. And the old Mark 1, well, it ain't getting rebuilt. It's there comes a tide in the affairs of men when taken at the flood leads on to fortune. Well, anyway, that's the fuel tank in. Hoses are all done up, and now we can move on to putting all the boot back together. Well, it's another day, and it's time to get this boot all back together. Well, the spare wheel's in, and obviously the fuel tank, so let's get the floor in. Well, or to get stuff out of my way from laying around the shed, I might put some of this stuff in where it's got to go, even though it'll probably have to come out again at some point. Burst up the battery. Normally there'd be a big plastic box full of bits and pieces as well, but that's in the blue Mark 1 at the moment. And a small little jack goes in there as well, but it's not really in my way, so it can stay where it is. Well, that's it for this episode of the Triumph Dolomite Sprint Rally Car Restoration. Tune in same duck time, same duck channel for more mechanical mayhem on the poor old dolly, when you'll see me working on the engine and hopefully make some more progress there. I'm Quack McMullard. Bye for now.